One of the criticisms of Obama-era foreign policy was that it incentivized China's rise to such an extent that it was taking the USA for a ride. This was the very thing that was addressed throughout the years of the Trump administration. The consistent pressure tactic that was employed by the USA towards China was very successful at impacting China's economy adversely. In 2017, Trump levied tariffs on billions of dollars of Chinese goods, sparking a trade war that stretched on for most of Trump's presidency. In 2018, the Department of Justice launched its China Initiative, an effort to disrupt China's covert activities in the US. In 2019, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo publicly accused the Chinese Communist Party of seeking international domination. The year 2020 saw Trump going all guns blazing against China, and with the Wuhan virus outbreak, it was the US that took on China and its belligerent attitude. It is clear that with tens of measures against the Chinese Communist Party, the Trump administration broke the CCP's back. So now, with no respite visible under Joe Biden, China is looking really desperate to find a solution with the USA. Hi, and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Shubhangi, and in this video, I will tell you how China is desperately trying to end its standoff with the USA. Let's begin. During intense standoffs between two big powers, most of the time it is not about who will completely demolish the other, but more about which side flinches first and comes out as the lesser power. This is exactly what has happened with the US-China trade wars and years-long standoff. For the first time, China has issued a list of red lines and remedial action that the US must follow in order to heal relations, including the lifting of sanctions and the withdrawal of its extradition request for Huawei financial head Meng Wanzhou. This list of red lines is more of a wish list. The dragon is wounded, and it is looking for a healing touch from Joe Biden. Under the leadership of Donald Trump, the USA had followed a policy of consistent pressure on China and utilizing tools such as sanctions, tariffs, among others, to make Beijing bleed economically. These steps were so thoroughly thought out that even after the Democrats came to power, many of those actions are still active. While China believed that the USA under Joe Biden would ease things for them, it has not been politically viable to be a friend of China. The damage by Trump has been made permanent. Now, as China is reeling from economic stress and a precarious domestic situation, in its desperation, it has come up with a wish list to improve relations, and it is all about undoing the Trump-era policies. According to a Chinese Foreign Ministry statement, Chinese Foreign Vice Minister Xi Feng told U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman on Monday morning that U.S.-China ties had reached a stalemate and risked serious consequences. As per reports, items on this Christmas wish list include lifting visa restrictions on Communist Party members and their families, because they love to come to the United States. After all, they have invested in American real estate. And let's admit, there's freedom in the US. Let's not strip Chinese officials of their freedoms simply because their jobs entail stripping off freedoms in Hong Kong, Tibet, and Xinjiang. Jinping also wants visa restrictions on certain Chinese students lifted, because how else is China going to plant spies in the US system and indulge in gross intellectual property theft? China also wants Biden to lift the sanctions imposed on Chinese leaders, government officials, and agencies. It also seeks the removal of restrictions on Confucius Institutes, China's propaganda centers, and Chinese companies, the same companies that help the CCP steal personal data or those that help brutalize minorities in a modern, scientific way. Jinping also wants the US to cancel rulings determining Chinese media as foreign agents, because, Trump designated Global Times as agents of the communist state because that's what it is. Now, China is not being able to carry out its propaganda. And the other demand, and the final one, is that the US drops its request to extradite Meng Wanzhou from Canada. Meng is the daughter of the CEO of Huawei and close CCP aide of Jinping. She is accused of violating sanctions on Iran while being the CFO of Huawei. The policies of Donald Trump concerning China were a natural course of foreign policy maneuvering that the USA had to undertake. And Donald Trump executed this brilliantly. That is why, even though the Biden administration has tried its level best to reverse all the policies of its predecessor, it has decided not to reverse Trump's China policy entirely. Earlier in his term, it was reported that the White House expects to keep tariffs on China left by the Trump administration in place, though it will evaluate what is appropriate going forward, according to the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. In 2020 alone, the Trump administration took at least 210 public actions related to China that spanned at least 10 departments, according to publicly available data. This demonstrated what the administration calls a whole-of-government strategy. The Trump administration also levied sanctions on 90 Chinese entities and individuals, comprising 11.5% of total US sanctions designations last year. These policies are still mostly in place, and the Biden administration is politically bound to further build on them. This has come like a nightmare for China, which understands very well that it will not be able to sustain under this consistent pressure, and out of desperation, it has come out with a wish list for the Biden administration. In the US-China standoff, it is China that has flinched first and has come up with a list of actions that the Biden administration cannot deliver on. While the Biden administration may be tempted to accept these measures, the people of the US have become very informed about the intentions and actions of the Chinese Communist Party thanks to Trump, and therefore, Joe Biden might not be following through the list because the political climate in America will not allow him to do so.